The Nanny's Deception. Before we plunge into this dramatic tale, quickly hit that subscribe button. And tell me in the comments, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken for someone you love? The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., just like every other day. Alice Reed opened her eyes, feeling the familiar weight of exhaustion on her shoulders. She slipped quietly out of the bed she shared with her mother in their small, two-bedroom flat in Peckham. Mrs. Davies slept restlessly, coughing now and then, a cough that grew stronger each day, stealing Alice's sleep. Alice quickly dressed in her usual uniform, jeans, a simple blouse, and comfortable trainers. Before leaving, she peeked into her mother's room and left her cough medicine beside a glass of water. "I'll be back early today, Mom," she whispered, though she knew Mrs. Davies couldn't hear her. The bus carried her to Kensington, a neighborhood where houses had gardens larger than her entire flat. Alice got off at her usual stop and walked 3 blocks to the large white house where she'd worked for 2 years. The gate opened automatically when she pressed the intercom. "Good morning, Isabella," she said, as she entered the kitchen, where a 6-year-old girl was eating cereal in front of a tablet. "Alice!" Isabella ran to hug her, her bright green eyes sparkling with joy. "Guess what? Daddy left early again. He didn't even say goodbye." Alice felt a pang in her chest. Leo Thorne was a good employer. He paid on time and was always respectful. But as a father, well, that was another matter. Since his wife died 3 years ago, he'd become a ghost in his own home. "He must have a lot of work," Alice lied, ruffling the girl's blonde hair. "How about we go to the park after school?" While Isabella finished breakfast, Alice packed her lunchbox and backpack. The routine was always the same: take her to school, return to clean the house, make dinner, pick Isabella up, help with homework, feed her, and put her to bed. Leo would arrive late, long after Isabella was asleep, and lock himself in his study until late at night. Alice's phone vibrated as she waited for Isabella to brush her teeth. It was her mother. "Love, I don't feel well. The cough is really bad. Should I call Dr. Evans?" No, we don't have money for consultations. It'll pass." Alice closed her eyes. They'd been postponing that doctor's visit for months because they didn't have health insurance. Her salary barely covered the rent, food, and her mother's basic medications. "Mom, we're going to the public hospital this afternoon, okay?" "Oh, love, I don't want to cause you trouble. It's not trouble. You're my mom." Alice put her phone away and smiled when Isabella came bounding down the stairs. She couldn't let her worries affect the child. The day passed normally until 3 o'clock that afternoon, when Leo arrived home earlier than usual. Alice was in the kitchen preparing Isabella's snack when she heard him enter. His footsteps sounded heavy, tired. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thorne," she greeted him when he appeared in the kitchen. Leo was 35, but the dark circles under his eyes and lines of worry made him look older. His always impeccable suit was now wrinkled, and his dark hair was disheveled. He was a handsome man, there was no denying that. But there was something about him that always seemed distant, as if he lived behind glass. "Alice, I need to speak with you," he said, loosening his tie. "Is Isabella in her room?" "Yes, doing her homework." Leo poured himself a whiskey from the living room bar and sat on the sofa. Alice stood, unsure whether to sit or continue with her duties. "Please sit," he told her. "This is complicated." Alice sat on the edge of the armchair, hands on her knees. The silence became awkward. "My company is in trouble," Leo began, looking at the glass in his hands. "The Japanese investors who could save us have a very specific condition. They only want to do business with men who project family stability." Alice didn't understand where he was going with this. "I need a wife," he continued, looking up. "Well, I need someone to pretend to be my wife for a week, just 1 week." Alice's eyes widened. "Excuse me, I'd pay you £50,000. £50,000. It was more money than Alice had ever seen together in her life. With that, she could pay for her mother's treatment and even have enough left over for her nursing studies, which she'd had to put on hold. Mr. Thorne, I don't know what to say. It would just be pretending. A few social events, a dinner with the investors, nothing more. Alice thought of her mother coughing in the early hours, of the medical bills piling up, of her dreams of being a nurse that seemed further and further away. Why me? She asked. Leo looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time. Because Isabella adores you, and because I trust you. Alice's phone rang again. It was her mother, but this time she sounded worse. Love, I think I need to go to the hospital. The cough. My chest hurts so much. Alice felt her world crashing down. She looked at Leo, who had heard the conversation. I accept, she said, barely believing her own words. Would you have accepted Leo's offer? What do you think Alice's biggest challenge will be pretending to be a millionaire's wife? Let us know in the comments. Are you sure about this, Alice? Samantha Jones adjusted her designer glasses as she scrutinized the young woman in front of the mirror at the exclusive Mayfair beauty salon. Because once we start, there's no turning back. Alice swallowed hard. 3 days had passed since she accepted Leo's proposal, and now, sitting in that Italian leather chair that cost more than 2 months of her salary, she was beginning to understand the magnitude of what she had agreed to. Samantha had been Leo's personal assistant for years, a woman in her 40s, elegant as a fashion magazine, who spoke 3 languages and managed the businessman's social agenda with military precision. When Leo explained the situation, she didn't ask questions. She simply said, "We have a week to work a miracle. We'll start with the hair," Samantha announced to the stylist, a slender man with a Spanish accent. "Nothing too dramatic, but we need sophistication." 3 hours later, Alice didn't recognize herself. Her brown hair now had golden highlights that elegantly framed her face. Her perfectly shaped eyebrows opened up her brown eyes, and subtle but professional makeup completely transformed her appearance. "Now, the clothes," Samantha said, leading her to a boutique where dresses cost more than half of Alice's annual rent. "Isn't this too much?" Alice murmured, seeing the price of a navy blue dress. "Darling, when they see you next to Leo Thorne, people will analyze every detail. The clothes, the shoes, even how you hold a wine glass. We can't allow a single mistake." The next few days were a whirlwind of etiquette classes. Alice learned to walk in heels, without looking like a wobbly duck, to correctly hold cutlery at formal dinners, and to maintain superficial conversations about art, wine, and trips to places she'd never visited. "Remember," Samantha would tell her during rehearsals in the house's dining room, "never talk about your real life. You're a business graduate. You studied abroad, and you met Leo at a charity event." "Understood." "Understood," Alice repeated, feeling each lie etched into her memory like a scar. The hardest part was feigning naturalness with Leo. During those days of preparation, he would come home early to practice being a convincing couple. They would have dinner together while Samantha took notes on their interaction. "Closer," the assistant would command. Spouses sit close, touch occasionally. "Leo, put your hand on her shoulder when you speak. Alice, look him in the eyes when he talks to you, not at your plate." Isabella watched everything with curiosity. One night, while Alice was helping her with homework, the girl asked, "Are you going to be my real mom now?" Alice's heart broke. "It's just a game, my love, like when you play house." "But I like it better when Daddy's happy," Isabella said. "Since you started coming home early, he smiles more." It was true, Leo seemed different, less tense, more present. He had even had dinner with them twice that week, something he hadn't done in months. Friday evening was their first real test, a gala dinner at the Four Seasons Hotel. Alice put on the black dress Samantha had chosen, shoes that made her feel like she was walking on stilts, and the pearl earrings Leo had borrowed from his late wife's jewelry collection. "You look beautiful," Leo said when he saw her come down the stairs. For a moment, his voice sounded genuine, without his usual business tone. In the car, on the way to the hotel, they reviewed their story once more. They'd been married for 2 years. They'd met in Marbella. She worked for a consulting firm. All perfectly rehearsed lies. The dinner passed without major problems. Alice managed to hold conversations with the wives of other businessmen, pretended to know expensive restaurants in Paris, and smiled until her cheeks ached. But it was during the dance when everything changed. The orchestra played a slow song, and Leo took her hand to lead her onto the dance floor. At first, Alice focused on not stepping on his shoes and maintaining the posture Samantha had taught her. But little by little, she realized that Leo was looking at her differently. "You're doing very well," he whispered in her ear as they danced. "Thank you," she murmured, feeling a strange warmth in her stomach. "Alice!" "Yes?" Leo moved closer, and for a moment, Alice forgot that it was all an act. The world around them disappeared. There was only the two of them, the music, and that look in his eyes she'd never seen before. "Sometimes I forget we're pretending," he confessed. Those words pierced Alice's heart like an arrow, because she, too, had forgotten. For a few minutes, she had imagined it was real, that he looked at her like that because he truly saw her, not because he needed to pretend for his investors. They returned home in silence. Alice took off her shoes and went up to her room, now the guest room, because a wife wouldn't sleep in the employees' quarters. She looked at herself in the mirror and for a moment didn't recognize herself. Who was this elegant woman? And why did she feel like she was betraying the real Alice Reed? From downstairs, she heard Isabella running towards Leo. "Daddy, how was your date? Did Alice behave like a princess?" "Yes, my love. She was perfect." Alice smiled sadly. Perfect. That word would haunt her all night. What do you think is going through Alice's mind after that evening? And what does perfect truly mean in a relationship? Share your thoughts below. On Monday morning, Alice woke with a strange feeling in her chest. The weekend's events had been a resounding success. The Japanese investors seemed impressed, and Leo had received several congratulations on his charming wife. But something inside her didn't feel right. She dressed in one of the elegant outfits that now filled the guest room closet and went downstairs to prepare Isabella's breakfast. The girl was already awake, playing in the living room with her dolls. "Alice, did you see Daddy's very happy? He read me a story before bed last night," Isabella said, running to hug her. "That's lovely, my love. Have you brushed your teeth yet?" While preparing breakfast, Alice heard Leo's voice in his study. He was on the phone, and though it wasn't her intention to listen, the door was ajar, and his voice reached the kitchen clearly. "I'm telling you, the charade worked perfectly, Marcus," Leo was saying. "The Japanese bought the whole story. Alice is a natural actress. No one suspected a thing." Alice felt as if ice water had been poured over her. She dropped the spoon she was holding, and the metallic clatter echoed in the silent kitchen. Yes, I know it sounds cruel," Leo continued, "but it was necessary. The girl needed the money, and I needed a wife. Everyone wins. I just hope she doesn't get too attached to the role." Alice clutched the kitchen counter, feeling her legs give way. Natural actress, charade, doesn't get too attached. Every word was like a slap. "Alice, are you okay?" Isabella had entered the kitchen and was looking at her, worried. "Yes, my love, I just dropped something," she murmured, forcing a smile as she picked up the spoon. The rest of breakfast passed in a blur. Alice took Isabella to school as usual, but the entire journey, she couldn't get Leo's words out of her head. How could she have been so foolish as to think anything that happened on Friday was real? Upon returning home, She avoided meeting Leo. She locked herself in the kitchen, in the garden, anywhere he wasn't. But it was impossible to completely escape. "Alice," he called her during lunch, "we have another important dinner tonight. Are you ready?" "Yes, sir," she replied, not looking up from her plate. Leo frowned. "Sir, I think after Friday we can be more informal, can't we?" "As you prefer." Alice's cold tone did not go unnoticed. Leo looked at her with curiosity, but said nothing more. That afternoon, as she got ready for dinner, Alice looked at herself in the mirror. The elegant woman staring back no longer seemed like a miracle. It was just a disguise, a beautiful lie she had used to deceive others, and what was worse, to deceive herself. The dinner was torture. Alice smiled when she had to smile, spoke when she had to speak, and acted like the perfect wife she was expected to be. But every gesture felt mechanical. Every word came out automatically. Leo noticed the change. During the dance, he tried to recreate the magic of the previous Friday. "You're very quiet," he said as they danced. "I'm just doing my job," she replied, looking over his shoulder instead of into his eyes. "Your job? Pretending to be your wife. Isn't that what you're paying me for?" Leo stopped in the middle of the dance floor. "Alice, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything's perfect. The charade is working, isn't it?" Leo's eyes hardened when he heard that word. He understood immediately. They returned home in a tense silence. Isabella was already asleep when they arrived, and the house was steeped in an uncomfortable quiet. "Alice, we need to talk," Leo said, following her towards the stairs. "There's nothing to talk about. I'm just doing my job. You heard my phone conversation?" It wasn't a question. Alice stopped halfway up the stairs and turned to face him. "Yes, I heard it, and it made my place here very clear. Don't you understand the context?" "What context?" Alice's voice rose. "The context that I'm a natural actress, or that you hope I don't get too attached?" Leo climbed a few steps until he was in front of her. "Marcus is my business partner. You had to assure him I was just an employee who acted well, right?" Leo's silence was all the answer Alice needed. "Exactly," she murmured, turning to continue up the stairs. "Thanks for confirming." Before Leo could respond, the house phone rang. Samantha appeared in the garden with a worried look on her face. "Leo, it was Mr. Tanaka. He's coming to London tomorrow night. He wants to have dinner with you before signing the final contract." Alice felt her stomach drop. Another investor. Another night of pretending. "Tanaka?" Leo paled. "I thought we'd already closed the deal. Apparently he wants to get to know your family more closely. He says family stability is fundamental to him." Leo looked at Alice with pleading eyes. "One more night? Just one night." Alice closed her eyes. She had come so far that she couldn't back out now. "All right, but it will be the last time." That night, during family dinner, Isabella finally exploded. "Why don't you love me anymore?" she suddenly asked, her little eyes filled with tears. Leo and Alice froze. "My love, why do you say that?" Alice asked, approaching the girl. "Because you don't smile like you used to. And Daddy's sad, and you're sad, and when daddies are sad, it's because they don't love each other anymore." Alice felt her heart break. She knelt beside Isabella's chair and took her little hands. "Isabella, my love, I adore you. That will never change. But are you leaving?" Alice looked at Leo over the girl's head. His eyes were fixed on his plate, his jaw tight. "Adults sometimes have to make difficult decisions," he finally said. "But I don't want you to leave," Isabella sobbed. "Why can't you be happy like on Friday? That day you came home laughing, and Daddy carried you so your feet wouldn't hurt." Leo looked up sharply. He hadn't remembered Isabella seeing them arrive that night. "My love, go brush your teeth," Alice said softly. "It's late." When Isabella went upstairs, silence settled between them again. "She's right," Leo said finally. "That Friday was different." "Because I thought it was real," Alice whispered. "And what if I told you it was real for me to pay you?" Alice looked at him in disbelief. After what you said on the phone? After everything, he confirmed. The next day, Alice prepared for her last performance. She put on the most elegant dress she had, carefully applied her makeup, and looked at herself one last time in the mirror. Tomorrow, that woman would disappear forever. Mr. Tanaka turned out to be a 60-year-old man, small but with an imposing presence. During dinner, he asked direct questions that made Leo and Alice nervous. "How did you meet?" he asked in his careful English. "At a charity event," Leo replied automatically. "And does the social difference between you not bother you?" The question dropped like a bomb. Leo and Alice looked at each other, not knowing how to answer. "Because it's obvious," Tanaka continued, "that she wasn't born into this world. It shows in small details." Alice felt the blood rush to her cheeks. She had been discovered. "Mr. Tanaka," Leo began. But Alice interrupted him. She couldn't take the lies anymore. "You're right," she said in a clear voice. "I wasn't born into this world." Leo looked at her in a panic, but Alice continued. "I was Isabella's nanny when Leo proposed this to me. I accepted because my mother needed money for an operation. This is a huge turning point. What do you think Mr. Tanaka's reaction will be to Alice's honesty? And what's the most courageous thing you've ever done? Let us know in the comments." The silence in the restaurant became deafening. Alice could hear her own heartbeat as she awaited Mr. Tanaka's reaction. Leo's face was pale, clearly convinced he had just lost the most important contract of his career. But to their surprise, the Japanese investor's face softened. A small but genuine smile appeared on his lips. "Please continue," Tanaka said, leaning slightly forward. Alice took a deep breath. She had already started. She couldn't stop now. "My mother is ill, and we didn't have money for her treatment. When Mr. Thorne proposed I pretend to be his wife for a week, I accepted, because it was my only option." Her hands trembled slightly. "But what I didn't expect was that I didn't expect." "Yes?" Tanaka asked gently. Alice looked at Leo. His eyes expressed a mixture of terror and something deeper she couldn't identify. "I didn't expect to fall in love," she confessed. "I didn't expect Isabella, his daughter, to become the most important thing in my life. And I didn't expect pretending to be a family to feel more real than anything I had ever lived before." Leo looked at her with wide eyes. It was the first time Alice had admitted her feelings aloud. "And you, Mr. Thorne?" Tanaka asked, directing his attention to the businessman. "What do you think of all this?" Leo cleared his throat, clearly nervous. "Mr. Tanaka, I understand this may affect our—" "Answer my question," the Japanese man interrupted firmly. "What do you feel for this woman?" Leo looked at Alice, then at the tablecloth, then back at her. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "At first it was just a business arrangement. I needed a temporary wife, and she needed money, but—" He paused, as if the words were difficult. "But at some point, it stopped being an act. I don't know when it happened, but one day I realized I looked forward to coming home, not for the house, but to see her with Isabella, to see them together, being a family." "Then why maintain this charade?" Tanaka asked. "Because he thinks I come from a different world," Alice responded, before Leo could speak. "And he's right. I live in a small flat with my sick mother. I've worked since I was 16. I don't have a university degree, nor do I know the business world. We're too different." "And what do you think, Mr. Thorne?" Leo loosened his tie, visibly uncomfortable. I think Alice deserves better than a man who hired her to pretend to be his wife." Tanaka leaned back in his chair and smiled more broadly. "You know what? You two remind me of my wife and me 30 years ago." Both looked at him in surprise. "I was the son of a traditional Japanese family. My father had a prosperous company, and it was expected that I would marry the daughter of another businessman." Tanaka took a sip of his tea. But I fell in love with Akiko, a girl who worked in a flower shop. My family violently opposed it. They said she wasn't from our social class. Alice and Leo listened, holding their breath. Do you know what I did? Tanaka continued. I gave up my family inheritance and started my own company from scratch, with Akiko by my side. It was difficult. We worked day and night, but we built something together, something real. And your family? Alice asked. At first, they disinherited me, but when they saw how successful we were, when they met Akiko and realized the extraordinary woman she was, they accepted us. Now, 30 years later, my father says it was the best decision I ever made in my life. Tanaka leaned towards Leo. Do you know why I want to do business with you, Mr. Thorne? It's not because of the family stability you project. It's because of the honesty you've just shown. In the business world, integrity is worth more than any appearance. Leo blinked, confused. That means I want to sign the contract, but with one condition. Which is? Tanaka smiled and looked at Alice. That you invite your real wife to the signing ceremony, because after what I just heard, I'd be a fool not to marry this woman. Alice blushed deeply. Mr. Tanaka, we aren't not married yet. Even better. That way I can attend the wedding. Leo and Alice looked at each other, speechless. I'm going to give you a piece of advice my father gave me before he died. Tanaka continued. True love knows no social classes. It only knows hearts that beat at the same rhythm. After dinner, during the drive home, neither of them spoke. The weight of their mutual confessions filled the car with a new, different tension. Upon arriving, Leo accompanied Alice to her bedroom door. Alice, he said softly. Yes? Was what you said in there about falling in love true? Alice looked him in the eyes. She had already confessed so much that one more truth wouldn't change anything. Yes, it was true. Leo nodded slowly. Me too. Without another word, each went into their room. But neither of them slept that night, thinking about what had just happened and what it meant for their future. Sunday had arrived, the day of final decisions. Sunday dawned gray and silent. Alice woke with a strange feeling in her chest, as if something important was about to end forever. She stayed in bed for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, remembering everything she had experienced in that house during the past few days. She got up early and began to pack her things. The elegant dresses Samantha had bought would stay there. She had no place for them in her real life, and besides, they brought back too many memories. She carefully folded her simple clothes into the small suitcase she had brought on the first day. As she packed her few belongings, she heard small footsteps in the hallway. Isabella appeared at the door, still in her pajamas, with messy hair and sleep-swollen eyes. Is it true you're leaving today? The girl asked in a trembling voice. Alice knelt in front of her and hugged her tightly. Yes, my love, it's time for me to go back home. But why? Did I do something wrong? No. Alice stroked her hair. You didn't do anything wrong. You're the most wonderful girl in the world. Then why can't you stay and be my real mom? That question broke her heart. Alice closed her eyes, trying to find the right words. Sometimes, adults have to make difficult decisions, my love. But I want you to know something very important. You will always be in my heart. Always. Isabella began to cry. I'm going to miss you very much, too. Alice hugged her until the girl's sobs calmed. Then she took her to the kitchen and made her favorite breakfast. Pancakes with syrup and strawberries. She wanted their last memory together to be sweet. Leo didn't appear during the morning. Alice assumed he had left early to avoid the goodbye. And in a way, she felt grateful. She wasn't sure she could maintain her composure if she had to see him. At 2 in the afternoon, Samantha arrived to take Isabella to the park. It was obviously a strategy, so that the goodbye wouldn't be so painful for the girl. "Take care, Alice," Samantha said, hugging her. "It's been a pleasure meeting you." "Thank you for everything," Alice replied, "for teaching me so much in so little time." After they left, the house fell into a heavy silence. Alice finished packing and sat on the bed to write a letter. She needed to leave something more than a simple goodbye. "Bye note. Leo," she wrote with a trembling hand. "When I accepted your proposal a week ago, I thought it would be the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. I was wrong. The hardest thing is leaving now. I'm not writing to ask for explanations or to reproach anything. I just want you to know that these past few days have been the most intense of my life. For the first time, I felt part of something real, of a true family. I know what we lived was the product of a lie, but my feelings were real. My affection for Isabella is real, and what I feel for you is also real. But I also understand that our worlds are too different. You need someone who can be your equal, someone who fits naturally into your life. I will always be the nanny who pretended to be your wife. Take good care of Isabella. She is an extraordinary child who deserves all the love in the world. And please, don't let work keep you away from her." Those moments we shared, the three of us, having dinner together, playing in the garden, reading stories, that's what she needs from you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to know a different world, but above all, thank you for allowing me to love and be loved, even if only for a week. I wish you the best, Alice. She sealed the letter in an envelope and left it on the pillow. Beside it, she placed the pearl earrings she had worn on the first night, the necklace Leo had lent her, and a photo Samantha had taken of the three of them in the garden. In that photo, Isabella smiled between Leo and Alice, and for a moment, they had looked like a real family. At 4 p.m., Alice walked downstairs with her suitcase. The house was empty, just as she had planned. She didn't want dramatic goodbyes or words that could shake her decision. Before leaving, she stopped in the living room and looked once more at the place where they had dined together, where she had played with Isabella, where she had danced with Leo that first night. Everything seemed like a dream now. She closed the door behind her and walked towards the bus stop. She didn't turn around to look at the house one last time. If she did, she knew she wouldn't have the strength to leave. On Monday morning, Leo arrived home earlier than usual. He had spent Sunday at the office, trying to avoid thinking about what Alice's return to her old life meant. Upon entering, the house felt different, emptier, colder. He went straight to the guest room and found the letter on the pillow. He read it 3 times before he could fully process it. Every word was like a dagger plunging deeper into his chest. He sat on the bed where Alice had slept, and for the first time in years, Leo Thorne cried. He cried for the woman who had left, for the family he had lost, for the words he never dared to say. That night, as he ate dinner alone in the overly large dining room, he decided he couldn't sit idly by. He took pen and paper and began to write the most important letter of his life, a letter that Samantha would deliver personally the next day, a letter that would change everything. Alice had not left her flat for 3 days. After returning on Sunday afternoon, she had locked herself in her small room and only came out to care for her mother and prepare meals. Mrs. Davies, who had notably improved after receiving medical treatment, noticed the change in her daughter, but asked no questions. She knew Alice well enough to know she would talk when she was ready. The flat felt strangely small after living in Leo's house. Alice had grown accustomed to the space, the high ceilings, the light streaming through the large windows. Now, sitting on her single bed, everything seemed tiny and gray. She had started looking for work again. She had the money Leo had paid her, but she knew she had to manage it well. Part was for her mother's ongoing treatment, another for resuming her nursing studies, and the rest for basic expenses, until she found a new job. On Wednesday morning, as she quietly ate breakfast with her mother, someone knocked on the door. Alice frowned. They weren't expecting anyone. Upon opening, she found Samantha. The elegant assistant seemed out of place in the building's narrow hallway, but her smile was genuine and warm. "Hello, Alice. May I come in?" "Samantha, what are you doing here?" "I have something for you." Alice led her into the small living room. Mrs. Davies greeted courteously and retired to her room to give them privacy. "How's Isabella?" Alice's first question. "Sad," Samantha replied bluntly. "She hasn't wanted to play since you left. Leo took her to the park yesterday, but she just kept asking about you." Alice felt a pang in her chest. "And Leo?" "Worse than Isabella." Samantha took an envelope from her bag. "That's why I'm here. He asked me to deliver this to you personally." Alice looked at the envelope as if it would burn her hands. "I don't know if I want to read it." "Alice, in all the years I've worked for Leo, I've never seen him like this. He wrote that letter Monday night and rewrote it 4 times until he was satisfied." With trembling hands, Alice took the envelope. Her name was written in Leo's careful handwriting. "Shall I wait while you read it?" Samantha asked. "No, it's okay. Thank you for bringing it." After Samantha left, Alice sat with the letter in her hands for almost an hour. Finally, she mustered the courage and opened it. "Alice," the letter began, "I read your letter so many times that I know it by heart. Every word, every comma, every full stop. And every time I read it, I realize how cowardly I have been. You are right about many things, but you are wrong about the most important thing. You are not the nanny who pretended to be my wife. You are the woman who brought life back to my home, who brought a smile back to my daughter, and who taught me that love has nothing to do with money or social status. Do you remember when you told me we come from different worlds? It's true, but not for the reasons you think. Your world is full of love, of sacrifice, of real values. Mine was full of loneliness, of empty obligations, of appearances. When you came into my life, not just as an employee, but as the extraordinary woman you are, my world changed. Isabella changed. I changed. I know we started with a lie, but what grew between us was the most real thing I have ever felt in my life. When I saw you with Isabella, when we had dinner together as a family, when we danced that night, none of that was an act for me. I'm not writing to ask you to come back to work. I don't want you to be my employee ever again. I'm writing to ask you to consider being my partner, the woman with whom I want to build a real life. I don't offer you money or contracts. I offer you my heart, my respect, and the promise that together we can create the family Isabella needs and that we deserve. If you want to live this with me for real, come. Not because you need money, not because I need you for my business. Come because you want to, because you believe, like me, that what we feel is worth the risk. I'll wait for you. I will always wait for you. With love, Leo. Alice finished reading with tears streaming down her cheeks. It was the first time Leo had been completely vulnerable, completely sincere. She sat on her bed, with the letter in her hands, when she heard a knock on the door again. Upon opening, she found Isabella standing in the hallway, holding Samantha's hand. "Samantha said I could come see you," the girl said in a timid voice. Alice knelt and hugged her tightly. "How are you, my love?" "Sad. The house is very quiet without you, and Daddy's sad too, even though he says he isn't." Isabella handed her a small envelope with heart drawings. "I made this for you." Inside was a drawing of 3 figures holding hands, a tall man, a woman, and a small girl. Above, in large, uneven letters, it said, My family. Daddy says he doesn't want to pretend anymore, Isabella said. He says he only wants you for real. You want us for real too. Alice looked at the girl, then the drawing, then the letter she still held in her hand. For the first time in days, she felt she could breathe completely. Yes, my love. I want you for real. Then you're coming back. Alice smiled, and for the first time in a week, the smile was genuine. Yes, I'm coming back. On Thursday afternoon, Alice looked at herself once more in the mirror of her small flat bathroom. She had put on her usual clothes, jeans, a simple blouse, and comfortable trainers. No elegant dresses or sophisticated makeup. If she was going back, it would be as the real Alice Reed. Are you sure, love? Mrs. Davies asked from the doorway. More sure than ever, Mum. That man, does he really love you? Alice smiled, remembering every word of the letter she had reread dozens of times. Yes, Mom, and I love him. Then go. Life's too short to waste true love. The bus journey to Kensington felt endless. Alice carried a small backpack with some of her things, and her heart full of nerves and hope. She hadn't called to say she was coming. She wanted it to be a surprise, or perhaps she was afraid of losing courage if she thought too much. When she arrived at the house, she stood for a few minutes in front of the gate, remembering the first time she had arrived there as an employee. Now she was returning as, what? As the woman who loved the owner of that house? As Isabella's future stepmother? She took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Leo's voice came through the intercom, hoarse and tired. Who is it? It's me, she simply said. There was a long silence. Then, the sound of the gate opening automatically. Alice walked along the stone path to the front door. Before she could knock, the door opened, and there stood Leo. He was wearing jeans and a wrinkled shirt. He had several days' growth of beard and deep dark circles under his eyes. He had never been more handsome in Alice's eyes. They stood looking at each other in silence for a few seconds that felt like hours. You came, he murmured finally. I came, she confirmed. Why? Alice smiled. Because I want to. Just because I want to. Leo closed his eyes, as if he wanted to engrave those words in his memory forever. When he opened them, he slowly approached her. This time, no agreements, he said, taking her hands. No deadlines, no lies. No lies, Alice repeated. Just us, being real, just us. Leo pulled her close until their foreheads touched. I love you, Alice Reed. Not the elegant woman you pretended to be. You, the woman who cares for my daughter as if she were her own. The one who sacrifices for her mother. The one who has the courage to tell the truth even if it costs her everything. I love you too, she whispered. The man who works tirelessly to give his daughter the best. The one who is capable of changing when he realizes he's wrong. The one who risked everything to be honest. They kissed for the first time as two equals, without masks, without roles to play, without class differences to separate them. Just Leo and Alice choosing to love each other. The kiss was interrupted by a cry of joy. Alice! Isabella ran towards them from the staircase, where she had been observing the whole scene. She launched herself into Alice's arms with such force that she almost knocked her over. You came back! I knew you'd come back! Alice picked her up and covered her with kisses. Did you miss me, my love? So much. And Daddy did too, even though he says men don't cry. Leo cleared his throat, visibly emotional. Men do cry, Princess, especially when they're very happy. That night, the three of them had dinner together in the kitchen, not in the formal dining room. Isabella talked non-stop, telling Alice everything that had happened in the days she was away. Leo looked at her as if he couldn't believe she was really there. After putting Isabella to bed, they sat in the garden where they had danced that first night that changed everything. How are we going to do this? Alice asked. I'm a realist, Leo. You'll have to introduce me at social events, to your partners, to your family. Not everyone will understand. Let them not understand, he replied, taking her hand. Tanaka was right. What matters is how we feel. And if someone can't accept that, then we don't need those people in our lives. And what about my job? I can't keep being your employee. I've already spoken with Samantha. She says she needs an assistant to manage some of the company's social responsibility projects. You'd get a good salary, have your own office, and you could finish your nursing studies. Alice looked at him, surprised. You thought of everything? I thought of our future, of our family's future. Our family? Leo stood up and helped her to her feet. Alice Reed, I know it's too soon to talk about marriage, but I want you to know that's my intention. I want you to be my wife for real, not a pretend one. I want you to be Isabella's mother legally. And I want us to build more memories together, real ones, without expiry dates. Alice felt her heart explode with happiness. Are you asking me to be your official girlfriend? I'm asking you to be my everything, he said, moving closer to kiss her again. As they kissed under the stars, Alice knew she had made the right decision. It didn't matter what world they came from. They had created their own world, one where love was the only thing that mattered. You know what? She murmured against his lips. What? You still owe me that second dance from that night. Leo smiled and took her in his arms. And now we don't have to pretend anything. The music that played this time didn't come from any orchestra. It came from the heart. 6 months later, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen as Alice prepared breakfast. She was no longer the same timid woman who had agreed to pretend to be a wife for a week. Now she moved through that house with the confidence of someone who knew she belonged there, not as an employee, but as an integral part of the family. Alice! Where are my red shoes? Isabella shouted from the first floor. In your wardrobe next to the window, she replied, without even looking up from the eggs she was preparing. Leo came downstairs, adjusting his tie, but no longer with the desperate rush of before. In these months, he had learned to balance work with family, delegating more responsibilities to his team and arriving home in time for dinner with them. Good morning, he murmured, approaching to kiss Alice on the cheek. Good morning. Your coffee's ready. And Samantha has already confirmed the meeting with the Nottingham investors for 3 o'clock. Alice had started working at the company as a social projects coordinator. Her life experience gave her a unique perspective to design programs that truly helped needy communities. She was good at her job, so good that Leo had had to establish a rule. No work topics at home after 7 in the evening. How does the future nursing graduate feel? Leo asked, pouring himself coffee. Alice smiled. She had resumed her studies and was about to graduate. On weekends, she would study at the dining table, while Isabella did her homework beside her and Leo reviewed some documents. They had become a perfect team. Nervous. Only 2 weeks left until the final exam. You'll pass with flying colors, he said with conviction. Isabella ran downstairs in her school uniform, with a radiant smile. In these months, she had blossomed incredibly. She was no longer the timid girl who cried because her dad was never there. Now she was confident, fun, and called Alice Mum without hesitation. Mum, today is my project presentation about families, she announced, sitting down for breakfast. Do you have everything ready? Alice asked, serving pancakes. Yes. And I'm going to talk about us, about how families are formed in different ways. Leo and Alice exchanged a knowing glance. Isabella's wisdom constantly surprised them. The doorbell rang, and Alice went to open it. It was Mrs. Davies, who now visited frequently. Her health had improved greatly, and she loved spending time with her new granddaughter. Good morning, love, she greeted, carrying a bag of ingredients. I came to make chicken curry for dinner. Leo asked me to teach him the recipe. It was another beautiful change. Leo had insisted that Mrs. Davies feel part of the family, and now she came twice a week to cook and spend time with Isabella. After taking Isabella to school, Alice and Leo headed to the office. Working together had been an adjustment, but they had found the perfect balance between professional and personal. "By the way," Leo said while driving, "Mr. Tanaka is coming next week. He wants to meet Isabella." "Really?" "He says that after our story, he's convinced that non-traditional families create the best businesses." Alice laughed. Mr. Tanaka had become a kind of mentor to them, always reminding them that true love was the foundation of any success. That night, after having dinner all together and helping Isabella with her homework, Leo and Alice went out into the garden. It had become their ritual to walk among the flowers that Alice now cared for with love, talking about their days, their dreams, their plans. "Do you know what day it is today?" Leo asked suddenly. Alice thought for a moment. "Thursday. It's exactly 6 months since you came back." "Really?" she felt. "It feels like it was yesterday and like it's been a lifetime." Leo stopped by the fountain where they had danced for the first time. "Do you regret anything?" "What would I regret? I have a beautiful family, a job I love. I'm finishing my degree. My mom is well." "And me? Aren't you going to mention me?" Alice moved closer and put her arms around his neck. "You're the best part of it all. You're my best decision. Mine was you too. Well, technically my best decision was proposing that ridiculous agreement." "Ridiculous? Completely ridiculous. Who hires someone to pretend to love them? Someone who didn't know they were already truly loved," Alice said softly. Leo kissed her, and, as always, the world stopped around them. "You know what?" he murmured when they separated. "What? You still owe me that second dance from that night." Alice smiled. It was the same phrase he had used 6 months ago, but now everything was different. "And now we don't have to pretend anything," she replied, repeating her own words from that day. Without music, they began to dance slowly under the stars. They were no longer the desperate businessman and the needy employee. They were Leo and Alice, two people who had found in love the strength to build something real and beautiful. From her bedroom window, Isabella watched them with a smile. Her family was complete, and this time nothing was pretended. Everything was perfect. Everything was real. Everything was forever. Were you moved by Leo and Alice's story? This beautiful narrative teaches us that true love knows no social differences, and that families are built with the heart, not with contracts. From a proposal that began as a charade to an authentic love that transformed 3 lives, we have experienced a roller coaster of emotions with these characters, reminding us that everyone deserves a second chance at love. If this story touched your heart as much as it touched ours, don't forget to like this video and share it with those who love romantic stories full of emotion. And if you want to continue enjoying more content like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. We'd love to know where you're watching us from, what country you're following the love adventures of our characters from. Tell us in the comments.